Hi, welcome back to a video that I said I was going to make a long time ago, but I didn't because I am lazy and procrastinated, but also because I think I was limited by the format in which I was recording. The issue I think I have is that I've got a lot of half-written scripts saved onto my phone, but the problem is that I can't really do much with a half-written script, and so what I've decided to do now is just sort of blabber onto the camera for like a few minutes and then edit that down to what is kind of more interesting. So I'm going to try out with this video and I hope you enjoy. In this video I'm going to be talking about a game called Control. If you haven't heard of it, the reason I'm talking about it is because A, I finished it recently, B, it didn't come out too long ago, and C, there's some upcoming DLC, so if you got into it now, it's a good time because there's new stuff coming out. Lots of cool stuff for you. How this is going to work is I'm basically going to start the first half of the video talking about very general topics, things like visuals, sound, gameplay, stuff like that, and then moving on through the video in like the latter half, I'll talk about more specific stuff. There'll be like minor visual spoilers in the beginning, but I won't like talk about too many specific things. But the second half of the video will definitely contain spoilers. So if you want to go into Control blind, then I do recommend going and playing before watching any of this video. But if you just don't want to hear any of the story beats, watch the first half. That should be fine. I'll try and stay clear of all that stuff. So I first heard of Control in 2019 when it won the award for the best visual design. I can see why it won that award. The game is a third-person shooter, I guess you kind of call it. The game starts kind of slow. You're sort of wandering around the office space, but it's very cool. It's got this whole like air of mystery. And as you go through the game, you do learn a bit more about this place, but the mystery still stays there. There's a lot of questions that are asked in this game, which I think is really nice. Onto the way it looks, it does look really nice. One thing to note is that if I have any screenshots of me playing, I was running it usually on like low, sometimes medium graphics because I need to upgrade my PC, and jobs are fairly hard to come by right now due to the fact that we're in the Great Depression 2, Tokyo Drift. Most of the time there was enough variance for places to be interesting, and also there was some nice spectacles. Sometimes it feels very clinical, sometimes it feels very industrial, but it does manage to shake it up. I do have one criticism though on the visuals, is that sometimes I think in a few areas they can kind of feel a little bit samey. I'll talk a little bit about more of that when I start like naming the places and stuff like that. In terms of music, it's kind of an interesting one because the game does have background music if you're fighting and stuff, but it's not too much to look at. It's not like God's gift to music like we've had in so many indie games. It's not something that I would instantly download the soundtrack and be listening to it, although there are a few really nice set pieces that have some really good songs going on. There are a lot of Easter eggs because pretty much the way that the game tells its story is you've got the main like running line where it tells the story of your character, but you're also told lots of different stories through like bits of reports and stuff like that that you just find on the ground, and different sort of special objects that you find. In terms of gameplay, in the beginning it's pretty standard sort of third-person shooter stuff, but as you go through you end up unlocking more powers and more tools that you can use, and it really makes combat hop into this nice flow of switching between using your powers, using your gun, making sure you're avoiding enemies, making sure you're using everything to your advantage, including the environment. I'd say in terms of difficulty, it kind of sits around where I think Doom Eternal lies, in the fact that it's difficult, but it forces you to use every single one of the tools that you have available. The environments, as I said earlier, are nice and they are varied and they do play into combat quite a lot. One move, you have the ability to pick up and throw things. That really plays into the environment because you can literally pick up anything. The game's engine is very sort of free with what you can pick up. Every little sort of object, every little mug has physics. So I think now I'd probably go to talk a bit more about like spoilery stuff because I just sort of want to start naming things. Because there's a lot of things that I do want to name and talk about. So to start off with, the story is interesting. It's not the best story that I've ever played, but I liked it. It kind of revolves around your character called Jesse Faden becoming the director of this organization called the Federal Bureau of Control. But overall I'd say the story is interesting, but I think the best thing is the way it's presented. Because as you go through, you learn more and more about this place, not through just what the game is telling you, but also things you've found on the floor, as I said. A lot of the most interesting things are like voice recordings, So partway through the game, you learn that the Federal Bureau of Control took Jesse's brother, Dylan, to potentially be the new director. And so you hear a lot of voice tapes of him being interviewed. It gives the place a really good feeling of world building, because you can properly see that there are people in this office. One thing that I found really sort of enjoyable is that a lot of the letters aren't even official. So you do have a lot of these letters which are just employees talking to each other. One thing that was really nice was a book club, and so I found a trail of letters of them having a book club and talking about books that they've read. Another thing I want to talk about is the plethora of side missions. If you do ever go and play this game, I do strongly recommend that you do all of the side missions, because they're all really good. My personal favourite side mission was the one dealing with a mirror. It's like a special mirror that takes you into a reverse dimension where you fight a mirror form of yourself. In terms of like materials and things that you can use to upgrade your weapons or upgrade yourself, it kind of works like BioShock, in the fact that at the beginning of the game you are going to be struggling to get anything, but when you get to the end of the game, suddenly you're like rich man and you make Bill Gates look like an NHS nurse. It's ridiculous. Earlier I was talking about the music and how I said there's a few sections where the music's really good. Well, the main place that this comes up is in two sort of big set pieces, where one is in a place called the Ashtray Maze and the other is in the Foundation DLC, and it's where you're chasing a movie camera. The Ashtray Maze is great because you're basically going through this sort of shifting corridor and everything, fighting enemies with this, I think it's a Norwegian rock song sort of blasting in the background, which suits really well, and as you finish it, Jesse aptly says, "That was awesome." It's a very fun sort of bit to go through, because at this point you are quite powerful, and so the enemies aren't exactly too challenging, but even if they were, it would still be a really fun sort of part of the game. But I'd say an even better bit is this chase sequence that you have with this film camera. And so for Jesse, what happens is you end up in this like car chase kind of bit where you're fighting enemies on these two rolling platforms. It's really cool. Another thing to note about all the bits of information that you can find dotted around the oldest house is that sometimes you'll find different videos, and also when you are sometimes told information through a thing called the hotline. A cool thing about these is that oftentimes they're live action. It's very cinematic and it truly helps the narrative. There's a great little music video at the end when Jessie is sort of in her head not really knowing what to do, which comes off really well. But yeah, they do a really good job, especially in some big cutscenes when even Jessie is live acted. One thing that the game does that I absolutely love is that whenever you enter a new area, the name of the area sort of pops up on the screen in this big bold font, and it makes finding a new area like a cool thing. I don't have too much else to say, other than I really kind of enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I think my final note that I have to say is thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully I haven't edited it too badly and it kind of fits together quite nicely. But my last note on Control, I think one thing that will always get me is a good ending song in the credits. Thank you very much.